Show. I'm your host, Chris Waters of the Ubisoft News team. You may recognize my voice from those operator guide videos we do every season on YouTube. But today, I'm here to chat with some of your favorite Siege developers as we get ready for the full reveal. That reveal will start when the timer counts down. You see it right there on screen, and that's when you're going to learn all about Fenrir and his gadget, the consulate map rework, and a whole lot more coming in Operation Dread Factor. But for this pre-show, we're looking back at Operation Commanding Force and talking about how it went, the impact that Brava had with her Kludge drone gadget, some surprising details about her loadout, and how the attachment updates have been impacting the game. Then we'll get into a post-mortem on the old consulate map. But first, for now, let me introduce my guests, Mathieu Lacombe and Dominic Clement, both game designers on Rainbow Six Siege. Matt, thank you for joining me.
Hello, and it's so fun to be here, right? We have this opportunity to discuss some awesome topics that we don't take the time to discuss. Usually it's patch notes or there's someone else taking the spot, so we're taking time to look back into Commanding Force. It's super fun.
It's going to be an interesting chat, and I think we've got some cool topics folks are going to enjoy. Dom, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, like Matt said, it's always great to put a cap on the previous season and kind of transition into what's coming.
That's right, and we're going to be talking Operation Dread Factor later. That reveal is coming when that countdown hits 0. But for now, let's talk Brava, the newest operator to join Siege with her Kludge drone. This was an interesting one, and one that, as we were kind of talking about it pre-show, lots of gadget interactions, a very, on the face of it, kind of a complex operator, certainly lots of design considerations. So let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning. When you were designing Brava, what was your kind of approach to her design in creating this operator?
If I start here, I think one of the interesting things that we could do that we couldn't do before is approach all of our gadgets in a systemic way. You may have heard us refer to catchers or other devices that are observation tools. And the fact that we managed to put all of those nice gadgets into boxes, well, it allows us to interact with them more easily. So
you mean you're kind of creating types of gadgets where okay, just to kind of, so it's not like you have to line it up with each individual operator's gadget. It's okay, this operator gadget group, and now she's going to interact with this group in this way.
Exactly. So since we did a good job at cleaning up our hack from before, now we have the opportunity to have an operator that hacks all of those gadgets because they're groups of gadgets like you mentioned.
Now, Dom, when we were coming into this season, you're designing an operator. Siege is at a certain kind of place. There's a certain meta. There's certain game conditions. But the operator design process starts way before. So what kind of role or what kind of target did you have for Brava in terms of addressing the way people were playing Siege at the time?
So when we tackle a new operator and we try to come up with new ideas, the meta is not there. We need to kind of anticipate what it's going to be once we ship the operator. So one thing that we have in hand is what our players doing right now in the game with the operators that they have, and also what have we added into the game, what people are getting more used to. And one of the stuff that was added recently is attacker repick, which kind of impacted the game in a really interesting way for us, because it meant that now as an attacker you can look at your team composition and be like, okay, well, we know they have certain operators on defense, so we can change our team composition and adapt to whatever the defense is doing. I think Brava in particular played extremely well into this idea, because, well, Brava's core is that she flips your gadget against you. So whatever the defense is throwing at the attack, now Brava can be like, okay, you want to put Kapkans everywhere, you want to put Aruni gates everywhere, you want to put Jaegers everywhere. Well, now they're all mine, and you have to deal with them. So she plays around this mechanics perfectly, and it's super interesting to see. And we could see it in and the Copenhagen major. Like pro players are bringing this operator, and not only in pro play, but also in rank and unranked or quick play. There's a lot of opportunity for this operator to really have an impact on the game.
Yeah, like we have a solid pick rate. We've seen like the charts where we have the pick rate and win delta of our operators. I think Brava started out really strong. We're seeing some like lean back toward more of the middle of the pack, but seeing her as strong meant that our players had an impact with her. Like you noticed the clutch zone, you saw what it did to have a gadget turn around you against you. And to me, like, it's super interesting. Like, I see content creator creating some awesome content based off the fact that they stole that one piece. You feel clever. It's fun to have an operator that allows you to be clever, and it's fun to see.
There's a certain mischievous to Brava too. I like that, right?
Oh yeah, the fact that you are rewarded to do something good, like you're droning out, you're searching for gadgets, and then you have a fun twist on top of it. Like that's a game. Like we're supposed to have fun, and I think we're having a lot of fun when we're playing with Brava.
Now, we've been talking about pick rate, which is one of the big metrics you use for sort of tracking operator and how they're doing. What are there anything else inside the metrics that is kind of like surprising you or showing you interesting things about the way that players are using Brava?
If we look into the loadout section, we do have a better split into what the loadout, what the players are picking in the loadout. We have the assault rifle, we have the DMR. Usually, like, there's one dominant option. When we created that loadout, we wanted to have something that is really, like, offering options and different playstyle to our players, and they're responding well. Like, we're looking into 1 round out of 5, you're playing the DMR. Like, that's incredible, considering that we have a solid assault rifle in our loadout. So it's really fun to see this. The same thing can be said for the shotgun. Usually you have the shotgun, you have the better option, right? It's more than a pistol, it's more than a secondary SMG. You're bringing destruction to the table without taking your gadget or secondary device, right? And still, we're seeing a lot of pistol play because I suppose our players are taking the hint that, hey, I move faster with this, so like let me catch up to my team with this. So yeah, surprisingly, we have a response from our community. That is not surprisingly, because that was the intent, right? To have a varied and broad loadout. But the community respond to our choices that we made.
That's interesting to see how it compares to, what you were kind of expecting in that loadout. And I think that leads us to our next topic here, which is loadout creation. I want to talk a little bit about this because when we talk about new operators, when we speak of them, especially in a season reveal context, and just a reminder, folks, remember that full season reveal is coming very shortly. That countdown timer is ticking down to when we're going to learn all about Fenrir and his loadout and his gadget. But for Brava's loadout, we were just talking about, the assault rifle and the DMR, sort of comparing maybe in a way that y'all didn't quite expect. When you're coming in and you have Brava and you're saying like, okay, we need to give her some primary weapons, what are some of the main considerations you bring to the table in deciding what weapons to give an operator?
It's a fun process because when we do some operators that have, like there's not the same as a previous operator, but they're bringing a different twist to it. We can think about Twitch and Brava. So in this specific case, we didn't want to step on Twitch toes. Twitch, you have that F2 that is really like a superb like assault rifle, but the rest of the loadout is a bit more thin. You don't have as much destruction in the secondary loadout. You have a slower speed, so we wanted to have a big contrast here, and that's why we have a assault rifle that is slower in rate of fire. We have a shotgun to make sure that we have some destruction. This means that maybe you like to play drones, but you couldn't play the F2 because it's a wild beast, right? Well, now you have an operator that can fit the kind of gameplay that you like, and it can be the same for other operators that we look into the past. Usually, how it goes, Dominic comes up with an idea of an operator, we try it out, and I pitch a loadout of what I think it will fit with it, and then we evolve from there. Like, is this operator turning out to be similar to another one? Is it a manker? What kind of gadget that thing does? And then we adapt the loadout to it.
So you're talking about comparing similar operators, obviously Twitch and Brava, kind of that attacking, like heavy drone utility operator. when we were talking before, you also floated the example of designing Womai when Jaeger was in the mix. You know, their gadgets are kind of addressing a similar need on defense in a different way. How did you kind of differentiate those loadouts to really help set those operators up as, you know, powerful in their unique right?
I think a good example that I would use for this kind of comparisons, is an even more recent operator with Solus. You know, Solus' primary weapon is the P90. Really powerful SMG. It's a really good gun. I mean, we've seen it in Pro League. We've seen it at the SI. Like it's a really good gun, but it was never really brought in play because, you know, there were better weapons on other operators that also had the P90s that players were using. And if you want to compare maybe like Solus with Pulse in a certain way, they kind of fill a similar role. You know, their job is to collect information on where the attack is happening and what's going on the map. And you know, they have a different approach to it. You know, Pulse looks for players, and you know, he has quite a lot of tools to you know, use this information to deal a lot of damage on the operators. But Solus is more focused on the gadgets, so it doesn't necessarily have as much information on the actual players. So we were kind of allowing ourselves to be a bit more, you know, generous with the strength of the weapon, because she doesn't necessarily see the operators themselves, she sees the gadgets. So once she finds the gadgets, she finds the information, she can start hunting down these players with the powerful weapon. Whereas, you know, Pulse as a UMP, you know, maybe Canadian would say, you know, I don't care, it's the UMP, I can do anything that, you know, any other weapons could do. But, you know, in general, this weapon is maybe on a, you know, lesser strength than, you know, if you compare it to, I would say, to the P90. So when you have these operators that kind of fit in the same family, same group, you need to look at their strength and what they're really doing. You know, Twitch, she's really there to destroy gadgets. She's really there to take them out of the map. Whereas, you know, Brava is more there to flip them around. So now you can use it yourself. So the result is similar, but you know, they have their strength, they have their weakness, and we didn't want for Brava to be on the same playing field as Twitch. You know, we wanted to create really a choice for players. You know, do I want to bring the Twitch with the F2, who I'll be able to, you know, to zap everything and then frag out, or do I want to, you know, be a bit more methodical with like, okay, I want to flip this to my advantage and then use the weapons that I have to then go forward and take control of the room that I have now, you know, increase in strength for me, because I now own all these gadgets.
Oh, that's right. Just taking control. And I like that idea of, you know, that player choice, right? Like you are wanting to give people not just one reason to choose between different operators, but like a really sort of a whole different kind of approach to play, and keeping that kind of play style in mind, and also giving players ways to make it their own, to tweak it to how they like to play, based on the weapon they're choosing, based on the operator they're choosing. And more recently, where you've done a lot of work as part of the balancing team, the attachments. I want to talk a little bit about this before we wrap up this segment pretty soon. Been doing some big stuff with attachments, extended barrel, suppressor. These have really come into their own in a whole new way based on the changes and updates y'all have been making. You know, coming into it, I remember talking or watching reveals, and you all kind of talking about how you wanted to create sort of each one to have a little more impact, or a little bit more, to do a little more, to make that choice a little more meaningful. Let's start with the extended barrel. Do you think that you've done that? Do you think that choice has been more powerful?
Totally. Like we even like nerfed it a bit during the mid-season patch.
Maybe
like,
too powerful.
Well, we went out with a bang, right? We
Yeah.
went with 15% damage, reduce it to 12. Like it makes the mats check out a bit more in our favor, like something we can keep in check. But really, like, went from this device that you use because it was looking good on my UMP. Like, I didn't need anything else on my UMP, so I'll use the extended barrel. Like, that's not a cool spot for an attachment to be. But the balancing team really brought like the heat with this one. We have increasing damage, any player will respond to that well, right? If we go a long way back then, we had the compensator that was a bit unclear. We had that one changed to left and right recoil. So we've been playing with all of those devices. We were making them interesting. I don't think there was anything broken back then. Like, it was just, you take the flash hider and you took the muzzle brake, and it was like, I've done my job. Did my homeworks. I'm good. But there's a will, like for us developers to bring something that we want in the game, right? We want to bring choices. We want to have the opportunity of our players to express themselves when they select their loadout. And muzzle attachment is one of them.
The thing I like when you talk about the attachments is, you're not, in this case, with commentator you mentioned, we're kind of addressing like, oh, it's a little unclear what it was doing before. But with these other updates, what you're really doing is like making them fun to choose, making that choice something that a player feels motivated to be like, yeah, give me that extra damage, or like, man, I'm getting too much of this. I need that muzzle brake. And I think we talked about damage a bunch and how that is a very powerful enticement. But the suppressor change to like eliminate that damage, reduction for using it, I feel like that almost changes the kind of play in a different way because of the way suppressor makes you think about where you're firing your weapon, when you're firing your weapon, how quickly you might be spotted or identified by the other team. Was that a fun one to see in action once you tweaked it?
It was an easy change to do, right? Removing the damage, and we're like, okay, well, it's going to work. But we were kind of scared. Like, if you're not giving away your position, the opponent cannot clearly react. Is it going to be too tough to play in this meta? And so far, so good. Like, players are responding well to it. It's not twisting the meta. So we're just keeping it in watch at this time. But it's really fun to see that this gamble that we took of removing damage made it an appealing option by only doing one change.
Well, it's been exciting to see how it's played out, how it's affected players' choices, and what kind of heat they're bringing to the game. And I'm looking forward to, what's coming next from the attachment balancing, from all that stuff that y'all get into. Now, speaking of what's coming next, folks, the Operation Dread Factor full season reveal is coming up when that timer reaches 0. Before we get there, we're going to have a post-mortem chat about the Consulate map, the biggest rework we've seen in a while on one of the oldest maps in Rainbow Six Siege. Before we get to that, please join me in thanking Matt and Dom for talking through these topics with us. Fellas, really appreciate your time. All right, folks, for the next and final segment of the Operation Dread Factor season reveal pre-show, we are talking about Consulate. Now, the Consulate rework. Details are coming up in the full reveal, which is happening right when that timer on screen reaches 0. We recorded this conversation earlier, and I'm joined by Jeremy Dowsett, the team lead on the World Team, to talk about the Consulate we've all been playing for years, reminisce fondly, and send it off on its way. Jeremy, thanks for joining me today, man.
Hey, it's good to see you, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for folks to learn more about the newest incarnation of this map, the rework of one of the oldest maps in Siege. And I'm excited for us to take a little walk through and reminisce, use it as a way to talk about map design and how you make these reworks. Because you talk about it from time to time, but we're going to get a little bit more into it here. Jeremy, how do you feel about Consulate?
Consulate is one of those maps that it's very polarizing for the community.
Mm-hmm.
People love to hate it. It's a tricky map to play. It's a tricky map to attack. It's a tricky map to defend at times. But it's also an old map. It's one of those OG maps that's been around since the beginning of Siege. And it needed an update, a new fresh coat of paint and, some walls knocked down, some things moved around. So it was time, realistically. And it's a map that I've loved to play. I've also hated to play. For sure. I think everyone has those feelings, but it's going to a better place now. It's time for a new look Consulate.
It's time for a new look, and I want to talk about the look, right? Like, Consulate to me, it's got this kind of like regal, like, this is a place where you of respect, of governmental institution. We've got pillars, we've got columns, we've got yellow tones. Like, what's the vibe of Consulate that we can see here as we kind of just like cruise around the old map in this open custom game I created? What's the vibe that you wanted to kind of carry through into the rework?
Well, you never really want to take away the feeling of a map when you rework it. You want it to play similarly, and you want it to look the same. So, you know, things move, things change, but it's a very grandiose building. It's big. It's, like you said, it's got the pillars. It feels like a government building in, you know, where it's situated. It just feels like that. So you don't want to take away. So when you're reworking a map like this, and this map got reworked like ground up, like there's nothing we haven't touched. So, you know, one of the key points, and you're walking up it right now, is the spiral stairs. I think it's the only set of spiral stairs we actually have in the game, and we talked about removing it, but you can't take away spiral stairs. It's one of those call-outs. Everyone knows it. You know, you keep things. So there's certain things that are always going to stay when you rework something. And there's certain things, unfortunately, are going to have to get flushed. Spiral stairs stuck for sure. We weren't going to get rid of it. Lobby, you know. You go through and you look at the pinch points. You look at the data. You watch people play on YouTube, and then everyone's always got a good idea. And if you ask the community, it's like, how would you fix Consulate? Then you know, what's the problems of Consulate? You'll get so much information, and a lot of it generally aligns with what the world team and the level designers and the level design directors already know, because we play the game, we play the maps. Garage is always a problem. It always has been a problem.
You know, I decided to come here because it's one of those points. It's kind of a very, I don't know, it's kind of one of the iconic spots in Consulate, right? You've got these big sight lines out here. There's always a lot of activity. It's a contested spot in a lot of Consulate matches. You know,
it's one of those. When you look at a siege map that's been around for so long, and you saw it with Border and you saw it with Cafe, the map always plays the same. Garage is going to play exactly the same most times. You're going to smoke, you're going to plant behind the van, and then you're going to hold it from a really long distance, and it's super hard to counter that. So this is like one of my least favorite bomb sites in the game, because of that's the way it works. So that had to change, because if you can't deny people getting into the garage, then it's going to be a smoke plant every single time. And even to watch as a fan, even as a developer, when I watch Pro League, it plays the same. As soon as you come down to garage, it's going to play out one, maybe two, three ways. It always stays the same. So we went through and we looked at this area, and the amount of iterations that were actually done on garage to get it, when you guys get to see this, when you get to see the new map, the amount of iterations to make this area actually work and play the way we want it to play was a long time, you know, months and months of changing things, moving things. People think that doing a rework on a map is quick, it's fast. It's not, because you have to touch everything. Like every wall, every window, every door, everything gets touched. And when we talk about old Consulate, it was an old technology. It was in a system we called DAB. It was the original system, so we had to rebuild every single wall, every single floor, every single ceiling from the ground up, literally basement to roof. We had to go through and touch everything to bring it up to the correct technical specifications that we need. So the destruction is better. It's got the new system, so it breaks. You know, there's less replication issues across servers. You know, it takes a long time to do this. All of the audio, as soon as you touch anything, audio needs to come in. You change a texture, you need to relight the wall. We did everything. The sound got done, the lighting got done, everything got touched. It's an overwhelming amount of work, but it's rewarding at the end of the day. And it's not only rewarding for the team, it's rewarding for the players.
You talked about kind of a couple of the different ways you go about considering a rework. You consider from a player behavior standpoint. what tactics are becoming kind of rote at a certain point? How are people playing the space? You come at it from a technological standpoint. Like, is it up to snuff with the updates you've been making to Siege and the various engines that run Siege over the years? Are there other angles like, new weapons come into the game, new gadgets come into the game, new operators come into the game? Are you touching maps with those kind of gameplay considerations in mind as well?
We've been asked that before, and it's a really interesting rabbit hole. You cannot design a map or cover or layout for an operator, because if you design it for one operator, it's not going to work for a majority of other operators. So no, we never consider what new operators are coming. We know what's in the game, we know what's coming in the future of the game, but we never do that. It's just too much work, and it will cause so many issues that it's not something you ever consider as a level designer, or these days as a team lead. And I constantly remind people, weapons are weapons. They make holes in walls and they shoot people. So we don't have to worry about that so much, because a weapon acts like a weapon. It's not a problem. Gadgets are sometimes trickier. We do know what's coming, but again, you don't design a setup for a specific gadget. Mm-hmm. What we do is we generally support the cell that actually does all of the operators and the gadgets, so we know what's coming. And if there's anything we have to tweak data-wise, i.e. just the core data of the map to facilitate that gadget working correctly in 100% of the places in the map, then we will do that. With Amaru, for instance, when she came in, that was a problem because we had to go through and tweak data and put in some specific things to actually make sure that she could fly up onto a balcony or come through a window. One of the interesting things about a rework and a reworked map is it means it's easier to maintain on a data side. So when people go to R6 Fix and they submit issues that they've found, it's easier for us to fix. Before, when it was in the old system, certain things we couldn't touch, and we had a massive backlog of bugs on this map that we couldn't touch because the data wasn't supported. So now, as it's at a level of data that we know and we can support, when bugs come up, we can go through and we can fix them. So it's better for everyone all of the time. It's better for the team generally working and supporting the maps. It's better for the players because we can fix things faster and cleaner.
Sounds like you're setting yourself up for things to go a little easier for you on Consulate when you're looking ahead to this launching. Of course, as always with reworks, it's going to be free for all players when the season launches. What are you going to be looking for? What's kind of the metrics you're going to be looking out to be like, okay, this is going well, or, oh, we've got a little problem over here. Let's maybe take a look at it.
That's always that's that weird homework thing that my level design brain never shuts off. Is I do watch a lot of people, especially a lot of UK streamers, and I watch them, especially when they're playing TS, and a lot of them do tweet me and go, "Hey, we found this problem," and they send me videos and stuff. R6 Fix is always the recourse. If you've got a problem, please put it on R6 Fix so it comes into our data banks. That's the most interesting and the most rewarding thing, because you're always going to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, because you give it to 70 plus million players. They're going to find the problems and they're going to find all of the ways to play it. And that's what's super interesting about this game, is everybody plays differently.
It is indeed one of my favorite things too, personally, and it's a pleasure to talk to you about it, Jeremy. Speaking of angles, tell me what's the best sightline on New Consulate? Go.
The best sightline?
Yeah, New Consulate. Where am I going to be making the plays from? Give me the tip. Insider tips.
It's gonna be interesting. New Consulate, at least you're not going to get killed at spawn or within 5 seconds of spawn, so that's a massive benefit for everyone.
I love it.
My favorite one these days, actually, on New Consulate, is the front where you have the balcony. We've reworked that so it's easier. Entry is easier into the map. So this is always a constant complaint. It's like it's hard to get in the map, especially if you're coming through the front. This area at the front, although it looks the same, has changed a little bit. Some of it's quite subtle, but especially up on the balcony, it's changed. You can actually enter up there now, so that's way more comfortable to actually play. You can even get in through the front door, because you knew if you were playing tellers, like getting in the front door, you'd have to like go through basement or garage and come up and loop around. You could never really take a really direct path because you're just going to get nuked as soon as you're close to this front door. Not anymore. It's gonna play. I'm really interested to see how people's strategies, especially Pro League team strategies, are going to change with the update to the map, because it will feel similar, but there are some new rooms, there are some different things. But there's definitely going to be a massive swing in the way this map plays, and it's going to be so interesting. It's interesting every single time. I've said this before, I'm always super nervous, and the team's super nervous when we release our workout into the wild. But the nervousness goes as soon as you see people having fun.
This is my tip for you folks. Look and see what's happening in this area of New Consulate. It's very fun. Jeremy, we got to get to this reveal. You are going to give people an even deeper look, well, an actually deep look at New Consulate as part of the Operation Dread Factor full season reveal. Thank you for joining me for this pre-show. Thank you, folks, for watching. And now, without further ado, let's get on to the main event.
Deimos and I had a different perspective on what constituted ethical progress of our research. It worked. Soluble fear toxin caused hyper-aggression in subjects. Too potent. Adjustments needed.
No, Fenrir. This is perfect. Exactly what I wanted.
What are you doing?
Human subjects. The next frontier.
It's too early for human trials. They'll kill each other!
It's a shame he has your formula.
He doesn't. I made sure of that. But I know Deimos. And he's coming for Rainbow.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Operation Dread Factor. I'm Camille Salazar-Hadaway, here to unveil everything that's coming in Year 8, Season 2 of Rainbow Six Siege. We've got a new operator, new map rework, and a lot more to cover. But first, here's Creative Director Alexander Karpazes with an overview of the season and some roadmap updates.
Welcome to Operation Dread Factor. This is introducing a new operator, Fenrir, hailing from Sweden, who's joining the Red Hammer squad. He's bringing with him the idea of fear to the battlefield. This is a mechanic that we've been working on for a long time, and we finally made it work. And we're happy to introduce him to the rest of the operators. On top of this, we have a big, long overdue map rework for Consulate. We hope you enjoy it. And we're bringing much, much more. We're bringing balancing changes, quality of life changes, and accessibility changes to make the game that much more enjoyable to play, including permanent arcade being released this season for everyone to enjoy. As with last year, we want to be fully transparent with what we do with the roadmap and any changes that we make. And these changes are actually informed by you, your voice, and your feedback. That means this season, we're delaying the Frost rework to Season 3, so that we can focus on the priorities that you mentioned to us when we announced this initial roadmap. That means Grim will be getting a buff this season, as well as the observation blocker being moved up to this season, Season 2 as well. For Frost, we want to make sure that you can play the Lab TS this season with those changes. There will be a dedicated spot on our 6 Fix where you can give us feedback for Frost.
Fear is coming to Rainbow Six Siege, and I'm not talking about 20 seconds left on the clock, diffuser in hand, what do you do, Fear? I'm talking about this. This is what it looks like when an attacker is caught in the radius of Fenrir's FNAT dread mines. Are you afraid yet? You should be.
Fenrir brings a whole new way to undermine the attacker's advances. One that's unlike anything we've seen yet in Siege. Next, you'll hear from concept artist Sunshine Kim about the design and creative vision of this unique operator. And then director of gameplay design Jeremy Carvon and game designer Dominic Clement will elaborate on the features that make Fenrir someone to be feared.
Fenrir is designed by, once again, our character concept artist NJ Chutai, who previously worked on Grim. Fenrir looks dangerous, somewhat frightening, but it's not reckless or evil. Since he's a scientist and a trained soldier at the same time, we really wanted to capture those two elements in the visual design. We explored light urban combat outfits for his general aesthetics, and something more advanced high-tech equipment that could be a focal point of his design. In this case, his neck collar slash mask that gives him immunity to his own gadget. Keeping rest of the design more grounded, we allowed certain room for fantasy on his gadget that can really show the character he can belong both combat and lab environment at the same time.
So when our team started to work on Fenrir, we found interesting information about military scientists conducting researches around psychochemicals. They were looking for ways to fight enemies with cloud of gas that can impair the brain and send a subject into a state of delirium. So Fenrir's device is a diffuser of psychochemicals. When it's activated, the metallic casing opens. When it detects the presence of hostile, a gas is sprayed. When opponents are under the influence of this chemical, their brain are affected, their perceptions are clouded, and their field of view are obstructed with hallucinations. Because of the nature of this character, we built this scary-looking device. Fenrir works with chemicals, so the casing is corroded, creating this skull that became part of his identity. When it triggers, two glowing eyes are watching you while you are slowly sinking into the obscure universe of Fenrir.
So Fenrir joins Rainbow as the mastermind of the defense. He's a unique trap operator that can truly adapt and redirect his own utility to the ever-changing flow of a round. So Fenrir brings the FNAT mine. It's a throwable sticky gadget that can be deployed pretty much everywhere. Once it's deployed and it's activated, it can be triggered by an attacker that walks in its line of sight. Once it's triggered, the mine will release a toxin cloud. Everyone standing in it will be affected by the effect, which we call the fear effect. In short, the fear effect is essentially a curtain, an opaque bubble around you that limits your visibility range to a few meters. Past that, it's complete darkness. So when the round starts, Fenrir has all of his gadgets in his pocket. And when they're deployed, they're basically inert. They don't do anything and they're armored. So they can't be destroyed by bullets. They can only be destroyed by explosives. Aside from being there and looking mean, they really don't do anything. That is until Fenrir activates them with one of his 3 codes. He has 3 codes.
and 5 gadgets. So he has less codes than actual gadgets, so he needs to be mindful of which one he's going to activate and which one he will remain armored. Because once they're activated, they open up and they're no longer bulletproof. So they're very vulnerable to bullets, lasers, and obviously explosives. Once they're open up, they mean business, and it means that it can be triggered by attackers and affect them. So when you play as Fenrir, your goal is to survive as long as possible. So we made sure to give him a kit that will hopefully allow you to do so. If we look at the primary weapons, you have 2 options. The first one is the MP7, a classic, really powerful SMG, great for close, mid, and even long-range encounters. So the second option is the SAS G12, which is a very strong, powerful shotgun that can deal a lot of damage in close range, perfect to pair with the gadget, which essentially limits the visibility of the attackers, so you can really get close and personal with this weapon and deal a lot of damage. Secondary weapon, we have the Bailiff. It's a great secondary weapon that creates a lot of destruction for a pistol. Whether you pick the SMG or the shotgun, you be sure to have a tool in your arsenal to reshape the map during the prep phase and set up your gadget the way you really want it. For secondary gadgets, we went for gadgets that will really synergize well with the operator's main ability. The first one is barbed wires. The FNAT will reduce the visibility, and the barbed wire will slow them down. His other option in terms of secondary gadget is the bulletproof cam. Again, a great synergy with the gadgets because you can use the bulletproof cam to keep watchful eye on your FNAT, and you can also use the bulletproof EMPs to disable any pesky attacker drone that might be coming in to destroy your gadgets. So Fenrir is a very flexible operator. It can be very useful for new players as much as for very experienced players. For new players, if you don't want to deal with having to manage and jungle with all the codes, you can just deploy your gadgets, activate them, and play them like a regular trap operator. If you want to be a bit more advanced and kind of trick the attack, you can really juggle with the codes, activate your gadgets when they need to be activated, deactivate them to protect them, do this dance of the mastermind kind of controlling where the gadgets are most effective and affect as many attackers as you can. Keeping up with the synergy between the operators and the gadgets, you have a lot of synergies with other operators. So like Melusi in Clash can combine their slowdown effect with the FNAT. They'll have their visibility reduced, and also they'll be slowed down, so they might be stuck in this effect a bit longer thanks to that. Combining it with other operators like Thorn means that you can kind of catch these attackers in their moment of panic and hopefully deal them a lot of damage with these gadgets. Another group of operators that are very useful with Fenrir is the intel gathering operators, like Valkyrie, like Pulse, like Solis. They're all very useful operators that can really collect as much intel as they can and share this intel with Fenrir, so Fenrir can be more aware of which one of his gadget needs to be activated in order to be the most effective. Operators that can be a bit more sneaky could potentially get a bit closer to the victims and give them a good scare, like, well, Kavera. So if you have a Fenrir on the other team, you have a couple options in terms of counter. The first one is the classic combo of IQ and Thatcher that can be brought to deal with these FNATs. So Finka is another very interesting counter. She won't completely remove the effect, but with her nano boost, she'll be able to kind of reduce the effectiveness of the fear effect, giving you more breathing room and more room to see around you and find, hopefully, cover to be safe. An interesting counter that you can bring is Mountain. Mountain can trigger them and provide cover for the rest of the team to come in and destroy the FNAT that have been triggered. Since he has the shield, the visibility reduction is not the end of the world. He's still protected. And finally, you have Twitch and Zero that can be brought to hunt down all the activated FNAT and zap them with their lasers. We can't wait to see the strategies and kind of big brain plays that will come up with Fenrir. He's really an operator that can play with collecting information and removing information from the attackers. So we can't wait to see players run around activating, deactivating their FNAT and scaring attackers throughout the next season.
We've seen your excitement about the upcoming map rework for Consulate, and now we want to give you more details on the renovations and updated bomb sites. And by we, I mean Team Lead World Jeremy Dowsett.
The Consulate is one of our original maps. It's 8 years old. It was old technology. It needed to be brought up to a level that we expect from our maps. New destruction, new walls, everything's up to the new 2.0 standard. So we can actually iterate upon it and we can actually fix bugs and issues much, much easier. We've gone top floor all the way down and even out to the spawn points. This map is a very, what we'd call a heavy rework. It's a massive overhaul of everything from the ground up. Exterior, in, everything's been touched. It's gonna feel the same, but there are a few surprises and a few tweaks. Everyone knew that there was a problem with Consulate with being spawn peaked or run out on quite a lot. So we've gone through and we've looked at all of the lines of sights from the building to the spawns, and we've made it more comfortable for the attackers to actually approach and actually get into the building. So what we've done is we've looked at all of the lines of sights, i.e. all of the windows, all of the doors, anything that looks towards the spawn. And in certain cases, we've actually either put a blocker on the window, say some scaffolding, or we've actually removed the window or blocked it permanently. So anyone that was used to looking out towards garage and getting a cheeky angle, that angle's not there anymore. If you want to spawn peak, you're gonna have to work an awful lot harder for it. There's a new set of stairs, yellow stairs, that go all the way up, which aids the navigation, and especially if you need to switch between floors. The biggest change that players will notice is the exterior wall on the balcony. So you can actually hold the balcony and actually play with the ebb and flow of the attack and defense. You've got a chance to get in on the balcony now. A lot of things have changed on the first floor. A lot of walls have moved. Some new thematics. There's a new thing called Exposition, which is actually a bomb site. So you have Exposition Piano as the bomb site on the first floor. Entrance lobbies changed. Spiral stairs, you're still going to recognize it. It's the same, but refreshed. A lot more cover and a lot more ways to actually approach the bomb site. It's less open. It plays much nicer than it did before. Everyone loves to hate garage. The smoke plant was everything. Every time you watch this map get played in Pro League, when it was in Pro League or in Ranked, you know what's going to go down. They're going to plant behind the truck, they're going to smoke, and then they're just going to hold it all the way out on the exterior, and you're not going to be able to counter them. Now you actually have to enter through a new room to get into garage to the bomb site to actually be able to plant. This means you can't hold it from the outside, so you have to enter the building. Same thing if you're attacking from server side. There were lots of lines of sight, and they would hold on a really long angle. We've looked at the angles, and we've cut them all down. The flow's a little bit different. The bombs are in different places. Not only is the garage changed with the big new entrance and the doorways through, there's a doorway to the side of it now that goes to yellow stairs. It's always nerve-wracking for the team, who did an exceptional job. It looks amazing. The artists were great. The lighting looks great. I think the players are going to love it. So like Nighthaven, you can't ban Consulate. We want the players to be able to experience the new map, the new navigation, and the hard work of the team.
In Siege, all it takes is one bullet. And to help you make each bullet count, the shooting range is continuing to evolve. Associate Game Director Christopher Budgeon is here to tell you more about the new features, including a destructible surprise.
We've been very happy and pleased with the reception of the shooting range and our constant quality of life updates. Now, in Operation Dread Factor, our Shanghai team is bringing our largest update yet. The aiming lane allows players to practice through play. Whether they want to customize the movement and speed of different targets from the shooting range, so you can test recoil and damage directly in an in-game situation. You can create customized setups if you want to adjust the speed, movement, or the distance options of different sets of targets. Now you can master your reticle management in a real-life situation, but without having to leave the shooting range. What we really want to do is allow players to get their hands on their favorite weapons and their customized loadout and put that directly to use so they can train and improve their skills in the shooting range. While we were really happy to bring the aiming lane for Season 2, we're actually bringing one extra thing as well. We're bringing a destructible wall into the damage lane. Destruction is really important in Siege, and so allowing players to test how much destruction a weapon will do versus the damage that it creates is a new variable that players can choose to determine their ultimate loadout. Practice creating rotations or making lines of sight, or even check what the damage fall off is when you're using your weapons through a soft wall. We're really happy to have destruction right there in the shooting range.
From golden guns to headshots only, arcade game modes are a fun way to flex your siege skills. And in Operation Dread Factor, we're introducing the Permanent Arcade playlist. For the full breakdown, let's go to game designer Robert Cole.
We are super excited to finally bring you the new Permanent Arcade playlist, and you can get your hands on it coming in Season 2. We wanted to give a place for players to actually play and enjoy all these arcade game modes that we've released throughout the years. But we also felt like all these game modes deserve a place to be permanent inside the game. And we will release with a list of 5 arcades. So now you will be able to, from the menu, jump directly into a queue for all these crazy and fun arcade game modes. Or you can even go to Custom Match and create your own lobbies with your own friends. We are releasing with arcades like Golden Gun, in which your only weapon is the Golden Desert Eagle. Or even Headshot Only, a game mode in which the only way to kill your opponent is actually with a headshot. Or even Snipers Only, a game mode in which everyone is using Kali's sniper rifle. We're also moving TDM, or Team Deathmatch, back into the arcade playlist, because we feel like it fits better in here. And if you were paying attention, I mentioned 5 arcade game modes. And that's because we're taking the chance to release a brand new arcade called Free For All, in which, you probably guessed it, it's you versus everybody else. No teams, pure chaos. You will jump directly into a map versus 9 other people, and you will have to fight your way to victory. So now players will be able to warm up and have fun without restrictions in these alternative ways of playing Rainbow Six, without actually worrying whether or not they will be removed from the game. So yeah, have fun with your friends in this new arcade playlist.
A new gadget is coming in Operation Dread Factor. You got a glimpse of it during the 6th Invitational, and now it's time to see, or not see, what's up with the observation blocker. Technical designer Sergi Ledesma from our Barcelona studio is here to teach you all about it and share a balancing update for Grim.
Intel gathering is one of the core pillars of the Siege experience. We want to reinforce this gameplay by giving defenders more tools to deny information to the attacking team. That's why this season we're releasing this new secondary gadget, the observation blocker. This gadget, once deployed on the ground, creates a digital barrier that blocks vision through attackers' observation tools, forcing them to drone more aggressively and giving more opportunities to defenders to destroy those drones. Defenders choosing this secondary gadget will start with 300 pockets, so they will be able to cover large portions of the map. When it comes to synergies, the gadget can be used in combination with operators such as Kait, Maestro or Melusi to hide valuable pieces of utility. For example, with Maestro, you're going to be able to hide your evil eyes behind an observation blocker and gather information and shoot with a camera without getting your gadget exposed to drones. It can also be used to defend strong positions. You could, for instance, place a deployable shield, a couple of ADSs on the wall, lay some traps, and hide the entire setup behind an observation blocker. Attackers won't know what threats are hidden behind this gadget, so they will have to either reach their drones, find a way to destroy the gadget, or pick themselves without enough information to win the gunfight. The gadget can be destroyed by bullets, explosions, or even be hacked by Brava, so defenders will have to find safe positions for it to be useful during the round. With the gadget in play, attackers will have to drone smarter and with more precision to gather the information they need to win the round. The addition of this new secondary gadget will create new gameplay interactions in the Intel gathering experience, and will also give the defenders more flexibility when it comes to assembling their team compositions. Grim hasn't received as much playtime as we would like. We think the main reason is how hard it is to apply the effect onto the defenders. We want to buff him, to make his gadget more reliable and impactful. And to do so, we will release 2 updates, the first one coming this season and the second one later during the year. From now on, the deployment sequence of his gadget will be much faster, so as soon as the projectile sticks to a surface, the beast will be released shortly after. We are also increasing his area of effect, so the beast will stick to more defenders. Additionally, we are doubling the duration of the beast, so the area will be denied for much longer. We are also improving his loadout. He's going to be receiving the bailiff as a secondary weapon and the hard breach edge as a secondary gadget. These new tools of destruction will help him create new lines of sight for his gadget to be useful. This set of changes will make him more reliable, effective, and versatile. We have more changes under investigation for this operator, so you can expect more improvements during the year.
It's time for an accessibility update for console players. New controller layouts are coming. Associate producer Jane Gonchar from our Keep Studio has more.
As you may know, we want to level up playing field for PC and console players, and new additional controller layouts are important stepping stones on the way to full controller customization. We have already several of them in the game, but the new one we are introducing are a step above and beyond, centered around tackling some difficulties that might cause discomfort for players when using the controller. Players who felt that some actions were taking a toll of their hands might find this feature is a way to increase comfort. Other players might find a way to play game differently. Working with current layouts already helped us shape the final vision for full controller remapping. We will continue to iterate on the feedback we gather to ensure that final product will meet the highest industry standard and provide our console players the best experience possible.
Next up, we've got a new feature coming to Match Replay. The free camera option will give you more flexibility over how you view and show off your replays. Creative Director Alexander Karpazis is back with the full update.
Free camera for Match Replay is coming to Siege, and this is a new perspective of spectating matches. This breaks from the top-down view or the first-person view of the game. Now you have complete freedom to move around the map as a camera, to inspect things that you never saw before, and to see strategies from a whole new light. The goal of FreeCam is to provide players with the tools necessary to review their match, to review the strategy. No matter where you are, you have the freedom to move around that map and inspect those details that you missed before. This means that the next level of FreeCam in a future update will be an update to the HUD, so you can also hide it as well. This would be a fantastic tool for creating content. This means that you can set up the camera that you want, the capture and performance that you want, so that you can create that amazing video that you've always dreamed about creating inside of Siege. In Season 2, we're bringing a quality of life update too, for everybody who enjoys playing squads. We're providing squads the opportunity to vote when the squad's ready to jump into the next fight, and the squad leader will instantly be able to move them into that next matchmaking phase straight from the after-action report. This isn't the only quality of life improvement we're doing in this season. We spoke at the SI about interactions with gadgets and improving that, and we're delivering with the first step, which is the diffuser pickup, making it more generous and more intuitive in order to pick up that gadget, and providing the option to players whether or not they want automatic pickup or a prompt to pick it up. The future means that we'll be bringing these improvements to other gadgets as well. And like we promised at SI, the idea of putting down your gadget, picking it up, and even throwing it will be on the roadmap for future updates.
Operation Dread Factor is coming to the season test server next week. Get a first look at Fenrir, his fear-inspiring gadget, and the reworked consulate map. And remember, whether you're on the test server or in the live game, reporting issues you encounter to R6Fix will get you a chance to earn some extra rewards. That's all for our show today. Thanks for watching.